Welcome back to Dungeon Master's Corner. Today, past me will be discussing a horrid abuse of power.
Welcome back to another DM's Corner. My name is Brian Scharf, and I'm here to talk to you today about our most chilling tale. I should start this off by saying, my players don't trust me. As a player. They actually feel safer giving me the godlike powers of a DM, because when I'm a player, that's when things get weird. So this story starts off when we had just finished our Tyranny of Dragons campaign, which had taken us 3 years to complete. We started in Fandalen and worked our way all the way through Tyranny of Dragons, as well as some additions that I added in. So, JJ, or as many of you might know him, Jeltor, he decided that to give me a break while I was creating the next campaign, he would run a little one-shot. But as I said, no one trusted me as a player. Not because I'm a min-maxer, I just make monsters. So Andrew, Craig, decided he'd make my character. And I was all for it. I loved the idea of playing a character someone else built. And that's how Todd, the Tabaxi Bard, came to be. Now, Todd was interesting because he could only communicate through a magical lute that acted like a soundboard, making any sound I wanted it to make, but he couldn't speak. So he communicated mostly through me playing songs off my phone to communicate ideas. For instance, when I wanted to say that we accepted the job, I played Money by Pink Floyd. So that was pretty much how that communication worked. So we were working our way through a dungeon to slay and steal from a young red dragon, and we came across something called brown mold. Now, to players who haven't encountered brown mold yet, it is a very interesting substance that requires delicate handling. You see, brown mold is freezing cold, and it seeks heat. So, any warm-blooded adventurer that gets too close gets bludgeoned to death by this mold, seeking the heat of their body. This means that get too close, take 4d10 bludgeoning damage, and at level 3, that's a lot of damage. We managed to destroy it thanks to our druid being the only one among us who has a spell that has any effect on it. And I have an idea. I have a thought. I take a piece of the dead mold, and I say to JJ, what happens if I put it in a corner and cast Prestidigitation on it? Just make a little fire. I put it in a corner, I do this, and he says, with the heat, it blooms and grows all over that corner. And I say, that's amazing. And I start taking pieces of mold and tying them to the ends of torches. This is where the fear began, because he knew I had an idea. He just wasn't quite sure what it was yet. So then we get into combat with a bunch of goblins and bugbears. And on my turn, I ask him a very specific question. I say, JJ, if I throw this without aiming, can I just kind of underhand lob it in a general direction as a bonus action? And he says, are you trying to hit anything in particular? I say, no. Just get it in a general place. And he said, if you're not trying to hit anything in particular, yeah, you can just kind of toss it as a bonus action. And I say, great. And I throw it into the mob of enemies, without trying to hit any of them, of course. And then I say to him, I cast Prestidigitation on the end of the torch to light it on fire. This is where it all came to a head, and he realized that I had just created brown mold stick grenades. The fight didn't last much longer, as the goblins and bugbears were now fighting both us and the brown mold. And, again, thanks to our druid, we managed to carve our way through. But this wasn't the most horrible thing I did with these stick grenades. So, we get to a metal door and feel the heat just coming off of it. Our rogue cracks it open and looks inside. And within we see a pair of what we think are half-dragons, but we can't particularly tell because they were wearing full suits, metal or leather suits, I can't remember what exactly, but they had flamethrowers on their back, and they were torching something. The entire room was filled with heat and fire, and I look around and I just think, well, I think I know how to handle this. I take out one of my stick grenades, and I tell JJ, I throw it in the room and slam the door shut. He had me make a dex save, as the door slammed shut before I could even touch it, as the mold bloomed, and the entire door frosted over. It took us 10 in-game minutes to finally beat the door down, and when we got inside, there was brown mold from floor to ceiling, wall to wall. The half-dragons were completely frozen and covered in it. And as our druid carved us a path to walk through, I found out that I had, inadvertently, destroyed half the dungeon. JJ took my grenades away after that, which was probably a wise decision, because had I used it in the fight against a red dragon, I either would have killed it immediately or killed us all. The inside of the dungeon just got too hot and the mold was starting to grow inside my bag, so I just had to ditch that. But that was not the last time that I weaponized something that was completely innocuous at the start. This was the story that really solidified for me just how much control players have over the game, and how careful I had to be as both a player and a dungeon master. It is as much the player's responsibility not to break the game world that the DM is making. Use things to your advantage, sure, but make sure that the story is being told together, and accept when things need to change for balance. But damn, I loved those mold grenades. Maybe one day, they'll make another appearance in one of my games.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Dungeon Master's Corner. If you'd like to support us, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Reliably Chaotic and aid in the dungeon renovation. Mold removal is expensive. You can also drop us a line on Twitter at Reliably Chaotic. We'd love to hear from you.